What's up, Bridal Babes? I hope you're ready for another exciting episode of your favorite local wedding show, Bridal Buzz. I'm your host, Kat, and today we're joined by Ron. He's the owner of Cutting Edge Entertainment here in San Antonio, DJ and Entertainment Company. We're going to talk all about the hot trends and the ways to elevate your wedding with entertainment. This is going to be a two-part series. Ron is going to be talking all about the entertainment side, and then Tavin is going to come in for part two and talk all about the music side. So before we get started, quick shout out to today's sponsor, Limelight Photography and Video. We'll talk more about them as we get going, but let's get started. Thank you so much, Ron, for coming into the studio.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Why don't we start off with just a little bit about you, a little bit about the history of Cutting Edge,
Okay.
And then we'll get into today's topic.
That's one of the things that I think a lot of our clients are just astounded by, that when I tell them that we've been around longer than they have, they, they're just like, oh, wow. But
How long is that?
1976 is when we
Wow.
were actually founded. Gentleman by the name of Dave Cooper, he founded us in Houston with another individual, brought the company to San Antonio in the late 80s. And then I started as a DJ for him in 1990. And then he was looking to get out, and I didn't know what I was going to do for the next several years. So in 1994 is when I took over.
Okay. And how did you find yourself in the world of DJing? Did you love music growing up? Did you love people?
I really did. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be in radio. And I would tape. I lived in Chicago, and I would tape all the crazy people that were on the radio at that time in the mid 80s. And it evolved into doing something in front of a live audience. And I started with one mobile DJ company in Chicago. And then I moved over to a second one, and then I moved down to Texas after that. But that was my start, just starting barely when I was 21.
Wow, cool. And so you've been in San Antonio for a minute now.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the changes you've seen just in general in the world of DJing, the world of entertainment.
It is just really amazing what has happened, over the last 30 years. We bring in new DJs, and I interview them, and I kind of explain how things are. And I try not to do this too often, but sometimes I catch myself. Back in the day, and we used to lug around all kinds of equipment. We'd have 3 cases of albums and 45s and cassettes and all of that. And the equipment was much heavier. You couldn't fit it in a car. You had to have a truck. And now everything is so easy. It's streamlined. It's very impressive. We can walk around with thousands and thousands of songs on a little tiny USB drive like this. And a lot of our guys now, they have Corollas and Honda Civics, and they hold a full DJ system. So
That's
it's
pretty
really
cool,
nice.
huh?
Yeah, it's come a long way just with all of the extras, the peripherals that you can get along with just a DJ.
Yeah. And so like the setup itself has gotten a lot more compact, a lot easier to move around, but it doesn't make the experience any less extravagant and extraordinary for the user.
Well, it doesn't make it any less. I think it really helps because it's just so easy. The way that DJ controllers are right now, I can show somebody in about 10 seconds how to queue up and to play a song.
Yeah.
And when it's that easy, it allows the DJ to spend more time doing other things, whether it be soliciting requests or talking to guests or helping the bride. Our DJs know to jump in there and just kind of look around, check the room, and see if there is anything that they can help with. Yeah. And so it really helps kind of free up the DJ a little bit.
So I feel like even the world of taking requests is a whole new thing. Like I can imagine before being able to type in a song, in a song bank. I'm sure there was a large song bank for parties, but it wasn't like it is now.
Correct. There in there, I won't talk too much about the legalities of it because it's not very legal to be streaming music for a public audience. We try and take all of the music that we need with us, but it's very easy to do that. But when it comes to taking requests, there was something that we experimented with when COVID hit, and it was just an electronic way to submit a request without having to approach the DJ and get in his face when we were all supposed to be 6 feet apart. So it is easier to do that now, but we've pretty much gone back to the old way. It's like, hey, can you play this song? So taking requests, it's kind of the same as it always has been.
Okay, cool. So talk to me a little bit more about what else besides the DJ equipment itself can people maybe rent or have at their parties to elevate their entertainment experience?
It's really amazing. There's so many different things that you can get, even just basic lighting. And going back to one of the first DJ companies I worked for, they used, you remember when your dad might have worked in his garage, he would have those clamp-on work lights. That's what we used as DJ lights when I first started.
Wow.
And it was just color bulbs or a color shell with a gel over it. And it's come so far with LED lighting. LED doesn't really draw a lot of power. Back in the day when I started at Cutting Edge, I mean, we would lug around these PAR 56s, these big cans, and they would consume a lot of power, and you had to make sure that you had enough power supplied by the venue. But the LED lighting just does all different kinds of things.
Yeah.
And we have these, the moving heads and the flashing lights, and even fog. Fog isn't really used a whole lot anymore. It's now called Haze. It's much easier for breathing and for seeing. It's just a little light mist that has the same effect.
Oh, interesting.
And the lights that go through that. So, dance floor lighting has come a long way, and there's a lot of different things that you can do. If you really want to look like a club, you can have the big trussing. We do that more for proms and school dances, not so much for 100-person wedding, but there's a lot of things in between. So,
and that's like the big lights on, like pipes.
Yeah, that's called trussing.
Okay.
And there's all these different fixtures that come down and really create the atmosphere that you want on a dance floor. So that's just regular dance floor lighting. Then there's uplighting. And uplighting has been around for quite a while, but a lot of times it was wired. If you want all the lights to do the same thing, there's a cable called a DMX cable, and it goes from fixture to fixture, and it would take forever to get all of this stuff hooked up.
Oh, interesting.
So some of our newest lights, they're called Rockville lights, and they're just PARs, but they all signal into a controller, and you have like what looks like an audio mixer, but you can control all your lights with these flicks of the faders.
How cool.
So you instantly can change all of the lights in the room instantly on just a little lighting controller.
Is that like Bluetooth or?
It is kind of like Bluetooth. It's like a Wi-Fi signal where you're communicating a signal from one to the other.
And how does that change the game for the ability to, I don't know, create the space differently?
There's just a lot of different things that you can do with it. Usually a wedding couple might have their wedding colors, and you can set the uplighting accordingly. If you want it on static colors as your guests walk into the room, you can change it later once the dance floor opens up and have it move to the beat of the music as well.
Yeah.
And now, like I said, with this controller, it's just a couple of, button flips and you're there.
Right, and the risk of your guests tripping over cords and things like that is
and
probably significantly less.
They're so easy to set up. You place them on the wall and you turn them on.
That's awesome.
So it's much easier than it used to be, even 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, and explain to me a little bit more about this new Haze situation.
So the Haze, it's just it's a water-based mist is really all it is. There's a hazer or a haze machine that expels the mist, and it's projected up towards the lighting, and it really adds a cool effect for the lights that are moving around and so forth. You don't see just the dot on the dance floor. You see the beam of light moving around like you would in a club or a concert.
For those of us who don't know the difference, how is that different than the fog machines that maybe we remember and like drowning you out of
the fog is just very dense, and it is more apt to set off smoke detection systems. It's a little more irritable if you have any kind of breathing problems. You can't see through it if there's a lot of it. So it's a much easier solution to use.
Yeah, I think of fog machines and I smell Halloween in my head for some reason.
Right.
But I love the idea of this haze. It sounds, and the lighting, everything sounds a little bit safer. Less fire hazard, less, people control hazard.
And this might be a good transition into cold sparks because they are they're much safer than actual pyrotechnics.
Yes. Before we get into the cold sparks, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Limelight Photography and Video, Bridal Babes. If you are looking for a photographer, a videographer, why not get them in the same place? Limelight Photography and Video has a team that can provide both for your special day. I guarantee you're not going to want to miss out on having a videographer. This is one of the biggest regrets I hear people talk about when they're looking back at their weddings. So make sure you check out Limelight Photography and Video today on sanantonioweddings.com. They are ready to help capture your special day. So that's Limelight Photography and Video. Check them out today. Okay, let's talk about cold sparklers. I definitely know I want these at my wedding. They just are so fun.
Well, people really, they see them. They see a video of them, and it's like, oh my God, I have to have them at my wedding.
Yeah.
And they're just, they're much safer. They're not, it's not, and I don't know all the scientifics around it, but I know that there are these little granules and they shoot 10 feet in the air. Looks really cool. But when you go to put your hand in it, you feel a little stinging because you have these pellets that are being thrust into your hand, but it's not on fire and it's not hot. It's cold. And you could do 2 or 4, or you can have them as the bride and groom enter into the room for the first time, or it really helps to make a grand exit, as you leave the reception at the end of the night.
And these are fun. I feel like there are a lot of venues, most venues probably don't allow not cold spark, like the actual fire sparklers.
Right, because there's so much involved with that. You need to have a fire marshal. You have to have permits and all kinds of stuff.
That's too much.
Yeah. But they work really good outside. There is a little bit of a dust that forms on the floor, but a simple vacuum or broom cleans it up right away. It's not that messy.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was like a particle coming out of it.
Yeah, it's a little envelope. Costs like $50 for this little envelope, but it's the granule that goes into the machine, and the machine heats up, but that's just to expel the sparks.
Right. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, cold sparklers are such a fun way to elevate anything. The entrance, the exit, just moments on the dance floor.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. So what about like photo booths and other forms of entertainment that people might not necessarily have considered like an entertainment sector of the wedding industry, but this is very much a form of entertainment.
Photo booths have been around, in a popular sense for probably 8, 9, 10 years. Yeah. And we've had a couple of ours for 6 or 7 now, and I think we're up to 5, but there's a few different styles. There's a pedestal booth. We have a really fun mirror booth with a bunch of animations and digital props that you can put on your creations. They have the 360 photo booth, which is awesome. We haven't gotten into that just yet. That's probably something down the road, maybe next year. But there's a lot of different styles, and the template can be customized for your event.
Yeah.
A lot of different ways to make it fun. There's physical props, and everybody loves those. The people that might have had one too many cocktails like to take those and leave the photo booth area and walk around the party with the big Pimp Daddy hat. But there's a lot of different things that you could do with photo booths, and they're so much fun. We do probably a photo booth at almost every other wedding, I would think. So.
And I feel like even though they just came into popularity in the last 10 years, there's a lot that has changed in the world of photo booths. I remember when I was in high school, one of my friend's moms just set up like her own camera with a backdrop and, some feather boas. But now there's that digital interaction. You can choose between a boomerang or a GIF and all these different things that really just elevate the experience for your guests.
Right, exactly. There's another thing that they do, and I don't speak Spanish, but it's La Hora Vida.
Okay.
Which is the crazy hour. Yeah. And some Spanish clients will do that for their last hour. And there's a lot of different things that you can get. I'm sure there's a lot of vendors that you have that supply all different kinds of things that you can do. And it's gone through phases of chocolate fountains and ice sculptures and all of those different things. So there's a whole variety of different things that you can do to really deliver a bit of a wow factor to your guests.
Yeah. So what would you say are some of the most popular requests that you get from couples?
And we're not talking music, right?
Right.
That's
for the entertainment. Yes. We'll save that for part 2.
But I think a lot of it is that they are just looking for a specific type of personality to execute their day. So that we're asked for that quite a bit, but really every client has something different. And so the one thing that I'm really happy about that we can do is we can try and accommodate that as best we can. Yeah. We don't have the big disco dance floor like you might see in Saturday Night Fever, but we know who does, and we can get that for you, or we can rent a dance floor if you need one for a backyard, for example. But those are really the big things. A lot of times people don't know what they want until they see something that they might like.
Right.
That's why I like our office so much. We have a little meeting room and we have all of these effects.
Yeah.
And we've hooked it up so we just flip a switch on the wall. And so all of this stuff comes on and they're like, oh, we'd like that. How much is that? And how much is this? And so there's all these different effects that they can add because they might have seen them somewhere, or they just really like them when we show them the effect.
Yeah. And one other thing I wanted to talk about is the dancing on clouds.
Yes.
This big Cinderella moment for the first dance.
Yep.
Is that with the Haze machine, or is that something else that you guys do?
That's something entirely different.
Okay.
It's a dry ice cloud. Oh. And so a dry ice cloud just hangs out near the floor. Haze and stuff usually rises.
Yeah.
And so the dry ice cloud is on the floor, and that is why it looks like you're dancing on the clouds. It's an effect that lasts between 4 and 5 minutes if all of the atmospheric conditions are just right. And then we light up the cloud and it just really creates some awesome pictures.
Oh, beautiful.
But it is an effect that just lasts for a few minutes. There's a lot of things that we have to make sure that are arranged in advance. We can't have the AC has to be turned off for a little while, ceiling fans off.
Doors have to be closed.
Doors closed. Yeah. We have to make sure that there's no children taking their face and putting it in the cloud and breathing.
Oh my gosh.
It's generally safe overall, unless you're sitting in a cloud breathing that over and over again. So there's a lot of little things that we have to look after, but that's always a fun effect. And when it goes off successfully, people are just very, very impressed with it.
Yeah, it definitely brings the wow factor.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Is there any piece of advice that you would give to couples who are just starting to look into the world of entertainment? Maybe they don't know what they're wanting. Obviously, I would say go to Cutting Edge Entertainment, look at your showroom, experience it in person. But what else would you tell them?
Really, it's just it really boils down to doing your homework, and whether it's us or someone else, going and sitting with them and talking to them, I think is the most valuable. If you fill out a form somewhere online and you get a response and you email back and forth, that's one part of it, but I really think you need to go all the way and go talk to somebody and ask them, okay, what do you do in this situation? Yeah. Or how long have you been around? Or what happens when one of your DJs tests positive for COVID? And I just had that happen this morning, and he's scheduled for an event on Saturday. And we're of the size that we totally have that covered. Yeah. But you have to be prepared for things like that and think about, what is your rain plan? And I know brides that, when they mention rain plan, they don't even want to think about that. They want to think that it's going to be a beautiful 78 degrees and sunny on their wedding day, but that isn't always what happens. So I think the main thing would just to go and talk to not only your DJ, but just all of your vendors and make sure that they're the right fit for you, because you don't want to realize that they aren't the right fit for you on your wedding day.
Right. Yeah. And, everyone has their own preferences and priorities. So just figuring out what those are and, understanding exactly what you're signing up for and all the contingency plans that follow.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yep.
Great advice, Ron.
You bet. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming into the studio to talk about all this.
Wonderful. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I can't wait for part 2. So Bridal Babes, stay tuned. Tavin is going to come in and talk all about music trends. So don't forget, the buzz doesn't have to stop here. We are everywhere online on your favorite social media platforms, and we have new episodes that come out every week for Bridal Buzz. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, do all of that good stuff, and check out Limelight Photography and Video today on SanAntonioWeddings.com. Make sure you also check out Cutting Edge Entertainment with Ron. Again, thank you so much. They have been around in the industry for so long. They definitely know what they're doing, and they have so many fun things that will help elevate your wedding experience. So with that, let's say goodbye, and we'll see you in part 2.
Thank you.